Hello students, so today we will explore the chapter 9 hydrocarbon. This is the theory part 13 and we will cover NCERT section 9.4.3 and 9.4.5 in it. Now, this is our disclaimer. Today we are going to focus on what you will be able to do this in this lecture, okay? It is important to set clear goals so you know what to expect and what to pay attention to. Notice that we are connecting chemistry concepts to the physical properties. Let us start by looking at different ways to prepare alkynes. Alkynes are hydrocarbons that contain at least one triple bond between carbon atoms. We will discuss methods like elimination reactions and how changing reactants or conditions can affect the outcome. Pay attention to the steps and the role of each substances involved. After that, we will learn comparison in alkanes, alkenes and alkynes and aromatic hydrocarbon. We'll look at their physical properties like boiling point, solubility as well as their chemical reactivity. Notice how the type of bonding, single bond, double bond, triple or aromatic changes this molecule's behavior. This comparison will help you to understand why different hydrocarbons are used for different purposes. So, we were studying them one by one. We have already dealt with this alkanes and alkenes. Now, we will do the overall study for the chemical and physical properties of alkynes. Topics that we will be covering today according to the NCERT section 9.4.3 preparation of alkynes, then property of alkyne 9.4.5, 9.4.4. We will just sum this up with a short summary then after. Alkynes are hydrocarbons that contain at least one triple bond between carbon atom. Understanding how to prepare alkynes is very important because it helps us to see how chemical reaction can be used to build more complex molecules. We will focus on the main methods used in laboratory as well as industry. First, let us examine the industrial method, preparing alkynes from calcium carbide. In this process, calcium carbide reacts with water to produce ethine, which is the simplest alkyne. This reaction is important because it shows how chemical energy is converted and released, and it is used in welding due to the high temperature of the flame produced. Next, notice the second part, preparing alkynes from vicinal halides. Vicinal halides are compounds where two halogen atoms are attached to adjacent carbon atoms. By removing these halogens, we can form a triple bond, creating an alkyne. This method highlights how changing the arrangement of atom can dramatically change a molecule's property. We will learn about these methods as we move further. Start by looking at one of the main industrial methods for producing ethine, also known as acetylene. This method uses calcium carbide and it is important because it relies on materials that are easy to find like limestone and coke. We will break down step by step to see how ethine is made on a large scale. First, notice that this method is one of the oldest and most significant ways to make ethine in industry. It has been used for a long time because it is reliable and efficient. Let's see why the choice of raw material is so important in this process. Here we see that limestone and coke are the main raw materials. Limestone is a common rock made mostly of calcium carbonate, and coke is a form of carbon derived from coal. Both are cheap and widely available, which makes this process practical for large scale production. Step 1 involves heating limestone. When we heat calcium carbonate or CaCO3, it breaks down into quicklime, which is calcium oxide CaO and carbon dioxide CO2. This is a thermal decomposition reaction and it is the first step in preparing our starting material. So, the reaction is given here. It is calcium carbonate in the solid form is heated to give us calcium oxide in the solid form, also known as quicklime, plus carbon dioxide. Here calcium carbonate is the limestone, calcium oxide is the quicklime and CO2 is the carbon dioxide. Notice that heating causes the breakdown and the product are both useful in industry. Step 2 is about making calcium carbide. We take your quicklime from the previous step and heat it with coke, which is carbon. So this reaction forms calcium carbide and carbon monoxide gas. This step is crucial because calcium carbide is the direct precursor to ethine. The reaction here is given in the equation form. So CaO solid plus 3 moles of carbon in solid leads to CaCO2 solid, COO gaseous. So here your C, 3 moles of C is coke, CaC2 is calcium carbide, and COO is carbon monoxide. Notice that for every mole of quicklime we need 3 moles of carbon. If we increase the amount of carbon, we can produce more and more calcium carbide as long as we have enough quicklime. Finally, in step 3, we react our calcium carbide with water. This produces ethane gas C2H2 and calcium hydroxide CaOH whole twice. The reaction is CaC2 solid plus 2H2O leads to C2H2 and CaOH whole twice in the aqueous form. Ethane is the main product and calcium hydroxide is a byproduct. This step is exothermic, meaning it releases heat, and it is important to handle with care. Let us remember, ethane is used in welding and a starting material for many organic compounds. Now, let us look at another method of preparing hydrocarbon, especially from vicinal dihalides. So, vicinal dihalides are common compounds where two halogen atoms are attached to adjacent carbon atoms. This method is important in organic chemistry and helps us to understand how different chemical reactions can be used to create useful products. So, let us focus on the process called dehydrohalogenation. So, this means removing both a hydrogen atom and a halogen atom from neighboring carbon atom in a vicinal dihalide. For example, if we have CH2Cl, CH2Cl, we can use this reaction to produce a hydrocarbon. Notice this method is especially valuable in the laboratory for making certain types of hydrocarbons. It is important to highlight that this is a practical laboratory method. Chemists often use this approach because it gives a controlled way of producing specific hydrocarbon. So in the lab, dehydrohalogenation of vicinaldehyde is a reliable technique. Let us break down the process into two main steps. Understanding each step will help us see exactly how the transformation from a vicinaldehyde to a hydrocarbon happens. We will go through each step in detail. In the first elimination step, we treat the vicinaldehyde with a strong base, usually alcoholic potassium hydroxide or KOH. This base helps us to remove atoms from the molecule. For example, if we start with 1,2-dibromoethane, the KOH will help us remove a hydrogen atom from one carbon and a bromine atom from the neighboring carbon atom. The image here shows the chemical structure and the changes happening during the step. So, during this elimination, what is happening? A hydrogen atom is removed from one carbon and a halogen atom like bromine is removed from the adjacent carbon. This process is also known as elimination because two atoms are taken away from the molecule, leading to the formation of double bond. This is a key step in converting the starting material into new compound. Now, what we can tell this compound in a different way, we can call it as vinyl bromide because the bromine is attached to a doubly bonded carbon. This compound contains a carbon-carbon double bond, showing how the elimination process creates unsaturated hydrocarbon. Let us learn further about the mechanism. The second step. So the second step, which is again an elimination step, it focuses on the elimination of hydrogen and bromine from the vicinal bromide. But here we are taking a stronger base, which is sodamide, having the formula NaNH2. Notice in the diagram how the base helps us to remove another group from the molecule, setting up the stage for the reaction. Now, in this step, what is happening? A second molecule of hydrogen halide is eliminated from the compound. This means another hydrogen atom and a halogen atom are removed, which further increases the number of bonds between the carbon atom, creating a triple bond. Therefore, we can say that on reacting our vinyl bromide with a stronger base like soda-amide, we can get ethane. Okay. First, there was a double bond. Due to removal of hydrogen bromide, one more bond is formed as the triple bond. Got it? So, just think about it. Why are we using a stronger base? Why? don't we use our previous alcoholic KOH? So it's a question for you. Now, moving on to the physical properties of hydrocarbon for alkynes. So physical properties are characteristics like state, color, odor, and melting or boiling point. So this helps us to understand how substances behave in different conditions. We will see how alkynes compare to other hydrocarbon like alkanes and alkenes. First, notice that alkynes show a similar trend in the physical properties as alkanes and alkenes. This means that as we move from one type of hydrocarbon to another, their basic physical behaviors, like whether they are gases, liquids, or solid, follow a predictable pattern. Keep in mind that these trends are important for understanding how these molecules interact in real world situations. Now, starting with the trend in physical state. The physical state refers to whether a substance is a gas, liquid, or solid at room temperature. For hydrocarbon, this state changes as the size of the molecule increases. We will break down which alkynes are gases, which are liquid, and which are solids. So, for example, the smallest alkynes, ethyne, propyne, and butane, are all gases at room temperature. This is because their molecules are small and have weaker forces holding them together, so they stay in the gas phase easily. Remember, smaller molecules usually have lower boiling points. As we move to larger alkynes, the next 8 members in this series are liquids, and even larger ones become solids. This happens because as the molecule gets bigger, the force between them gets stronger, making it harder for them to stay as gases. So, the physical state shifts from gas to liquid to solid as the molecule size increases. The main reason for this change in physical state, which we have predicted so far, is intermolecular interaction. Intermolecular interaction are the forces that hold the molecule together in a substance. The stronger this force is, the more likely the substance is to be liquid or solid at room temperature. Now, what are this specific intermolecular interaction? So they are known as van der Waals force. These are weak interactions that occur between all molecules because they are especially important in non-polar molecules like hydrocarbon, where they are the dominating one. So the physical state of alkynes is determined by the extent of this van der Waals force. Polarity refers to how the electric charge is distributed in a molecule. In hydrocarbon, this depends on the type of bonds and the arrangement of atoms. Notice that the sp hybridized carbons in a triple bond are more electronegative than other carbons. This means they pull electrons closer, creating a weak dipole or a slight separation of charge along the carbon chain. This is different from alkanes and alkenes, which are mostly non-polar. Because of this difference in polarity, alkynes generally have higher melting and boiling points compared to alkenes and alkanes. The increased polarity means the molecules are attracted to each other more strongly, so it takes more energy to separate them. Now, as the molar mass of an alkyne increases, its melting point, boiling point, and density all go up. This is because larger molecules have more electrons, leading to stronger intermolecular forces. For example, butane have a higher boiling point than ethyne. Branching. So next part is branching. So if carbon chain is branched, the melting point and the boiling point decreases. Branching makes the molecule pack less tightly, so it is easier for them to separate. This is a general trend seen in all hydrocarbon. Now let us move on to color and odor. This property can help us identify different hydrocarbon in the lab or in the real world situations as well. Ethyne, also known as acetylene, has a faint sweet odor that can be detected if you are working with it. This is useful clue for recognizing its presence. Other alkynes and most simple hydrocarbon are both odorless and colorless. This means you can't rely on your senses to detect them. So always use proper safety precautions. Next, density and solubility. So these properties tells us how hydrocarbon interact with water and other solvents. Basically, alkynes are lighter than water, which means they will float if mixed. They are also immiscible in water, so they don't dissolve or mix with it. This is similar to how oil behaves in water. On the other hand, alkynes dissolve well in organic solvents like ether, carbon tetrachloride, and benzene. This is because like dissolves like, non-polar molecules dissolve best in non-polar solvents. So let us summarize. Alkynes are weakly polar, have higher melting and boiling point than alkanes and alkenes, and are generally colorless, odorless, lighter than water, and soluble in organic solvents. Now, let us look at the chemical properties of hydrocarbons, focusing on the acidic character of alkynes. Alkynes are a type of hydrocarbon with at least one triple bond between carbon atom. We will see why some alkynes can behave like weak acids, which is unusual for your hydrocarbons. Terminal alkynes are weakly acidic. sp hybridized carbon in the CH bond has 50% S character, making it highly electronegative. Carbon pulls the CH bond electrons closer, making H plus easier to lose. Now let us examine what is happening in detail. So the carbon is the carbon in the CH bond of terminal alkyne is sp hybridized, as I said, meaning its electrons are arranged with 50% S character. This makes the carbon more electronegative or better at attracting electrons compared to other type of bonds. Because the carbon is more electronegative, it will pull the electron in the CH bond closer to itself. This makes it easier for the hydrogen atom to leave as a proton or H plus ion. So the bond is more likely to break and release a hydrogen ion, which is what gives terminal alkynes their weak acidity. So here is a specific example of propyne, which is a terminal alkyne, means it contains a carbon-carbon triple bond at the end of the carbon chain with one of the triply bonded carbon also attached to the hydrogen atom. Now, this specific hydrogen known as the terminal alkyne hydrogen is weakly acidic due to the sp hybridization of the carbon atom. It is bonded to what makes your carbon more electronegative than sp2 or sp3 carbons. The image illustrates this by showing a partial positive charge on the terminal hydrogen and a partial negative charge delta minus on the adjacent triply bonded carbon, indicating the polarity of the CH bond. This polarity is crucial for reactions involving terminal alkynes, where the acidic hydrogen can be removed by a stronger base. Now, moving on further, what are the alkynes that can react with, what are the bases that our alkynes can react with? So let us look at alkynes react with stronger bases like sodium metal or soda amide. When an alkyne such as ethyne, also called as acetylene, reacts with these bases, it forms a compound called as acetylide. This reaction is possible because the hydrogen atom attached to the carbon in the triple bond is slightly acidic and can be removed by a strong base. So this is your equation. CH triple bond CH in the gaseous form is reacting with sodium in the solid form to give you monosodium acetylide plus half mole of hydrogen gas. Now let us see what will happen if we use excess sodium. The monosodium acetylide formed in the previous step can react with more sodium to produce disodium acetylide. This means both hydrogens attached to the carbon in the triple bond can be replaced by sodium atoms, showing the increased reactivity when more sodium is present. So for sodium acetylide, if it is further reacting with sodium in the solid form, it will give you disodium acetylide and half mole of hydrogen gas again. Now, what will happen if we take excess sodium with propyne? So propyne has only one terminal hydrogen, okay? That can only result in one product, means it will not do further proton abstraction because of the what? Because of the single alkyne terminal hydrogen available at the alkyne carbon. You got it? So what it will produce? It will produce only sodium propionide along with ammonia. Now, continuing with the acidic character of alkynes, let us examine the acidic character of alkyne. So this property is actually used as a test to distinguish between terminal alkynes which have a hydrogen atom attached to the triply bonded carbon at the end of the chain and the internal alkynes where the triple bond is between two carbon, okay, within the chain. Notice how this different in structure leads to different chemical reactivity. So your internal alkynes do not react with sodium or soda amide. This is important because it means only that your terminal alkynes with their extra hydrogen at the end shows this acidic behavior. If you want to test whether an alkyne is terminal or internal, you can use this reaction as distinguishing feature. So this is your trend for acidity among different alkyne. You can see here that ethine is the most acidic, then comes your propyne, and lastly your but2-ine. So this reaction is, again, as I said, it is not shown by alkenes and alkanes, which are other type of hydrocarbon where there are only double bond and single bond respectively. This sets alkynes apart in their chemical behavior. Now let's see how their acidity is can be written as compared to alkenes and alkanes. So alkanes, alkenes and alkynes follow the following trend in the acidic behavior. The trend is due to the increasing percentage of S character. In the hybrid orbital, as we move from sp3 to sp2 to sp, that means from alkane to alkene to alkyne, the higher the S character, the closer the electrons are to the nucleus, making the hydrogen easier to remove and increasing acidity. Remember, from right to left, acidity increases as S character increases. This is a fundamental concept in understanding the chemical properties of hydrocarbon. Now, next, focusing on other chemical reactions of alkynes, which is addition reactions. So addition reactions are a key way that your unsaturated hydrocarbons like your alkyne react with other substances. We will see how this will change the structure of alkynes, making them a alkane or a alkene. Now, alkynes have a triple bond, we know that. So this means there is 1 sigma and 2 pi bond between the carbon atom. The presence of this pi bond make alkynes much more reactive than alkanes or alkenes, especially in addition reactions. Because of this reactivity, alkynes can undergo electrophilic addition reaction. In these reactions, an electrophile, something that seeks electrons, attacks the electron-rich triple bond, starting the reaction process. This is a fundamental way that new atoms or group can be added to your alkyne. Now, let us see what kind of molecules that can be added to alkynes. So, alkynes are unique because they can add 2 molecules of certain reactant, not just one, unlike the alkene. This is due to the presence of 2 pi bond in the triple bond, allowing for 2 separate addition steps. So one example is addition of hydrogen, where alkyne reacts with your hydrogen gas. They can add 2 molecules of hydrogen, eventually converting the triple bond all the way to single bond. This is called hydrogenation, and it is an important industrial method. Then after, we can react our alkyne with chlorine Cl2 or bromine Br2. In this reaction, the halogen atoms add across the triple bond. Again, 2 steps. This is a good way to test for unsaturation in hydrocarbon because the color of the halogen disappears as it reacts. Then after, another group of reactants are hydrogen halides such as HCl or HBr. These molecules add across a triple bond in a similar stepwise fashion. The molecule depends on the order in which the atoms add, which can lead to different isomers. Now, let's break down how the addition actually happens. The formation of the final product does not occur all at once. It happens in steps. Understanding the steps helps us predict the product and the controlled reaction. Triple bond. In the first step, the triple bond is converted to double bond. This means 1 pi bond is broken and new atoms are added to the carbons. This molecule is now an alkene, which is still unsaturated and can react further. In the second step, the double bond is converted to a single bond. The remaining pi bond is broken and more atoms are added. At the end of this process, the molecule is fully unsaturated and the addition reaction is complete. Now, continuing with the specific reaction that we talked about now. So, we talked about the addition of hydrogen. We will see its application with certain examples. So, H2 is added across the alkyne 2 steps. So, means any electrophilic addition will occur in 2 steps basically, if it is adding to your alkyne. Now, first of all, there will be addition of 1 mole of hydrogen to form an alkene and the another mole of hydrogen to form alkane. For example, if we are taking ethine, then after adding 1 mole of hydrogen gas in the presence of a catalyst like platinum, palladium or nickel, we get ethene, which is an alkene. If we add another mole of hydrogen, what we will get? we will get ethane, which is a fully saturated alkane. This shows how the structure changes from a triple bond to a double bond and finally to a single bond. Similarly, if you start with propyne, the addition of hydrogen first gives us propene and then propane. This pattern holds for other alkynes as well. The key takeaway is that addition reaction with hydrogen allows us to convert our unsaturated hydrocarbon in more saturated one step by step. Now moving on to the other type of addition reaction. So this one is addition of halogens to alkynes. So halogens are elements like chlorine Cl2 or bromine Br2, which are very reactive. When they react with alkyne, they add across the triple bond similar to the dihydrogen, changing the structure of hydrocarbon. So we have alkyne here as what? CH triple bond CH. What will happen if you react it with bromine? Suppose first it will form CHBr double bond CHBr and then it will form CHBr2 single bond CHBr2. So basically we are forming a dihaloalkane and then a tetrahaloalkane. Now we can take specific examples. So we are taking ethyne here as our example, and when we react our ethyne with bromine, it forms 1,2-dibromoethene, which is a dihaloalkane, which has 2 bromine atoms added across the triple bond. If we add more bromine, it forms tetrabromoethane, where 4 bromine atoms are now attached. This shows how the reaction can proceed in 2 steps. So this reaction actually happened 2 distinct steps, as we said. The first step is addition across the triple bond forming a dihaloalkane, which is 1,2-dibromoethane in the above example. The second step is addition of the Br2 again to 1,dibromoethane to form tetrabromoethane. Now we can take one more example of propyne. So if we take propyne and react it with a bromine, then in the first process, in the first addition process, we will get 1,2-dibromopropane. Right? If we react another molecule, we will get 1,1,2,2-tetrabromopropane. Moving on further, there is a very special test which can be used due to this addition process, which is test for unsaturation. So we already dealt with it for double bond. Now, since this X2 can be added to triple bond as well, so you can use this X2 addition as a test for unsaturation for triple bond as well. Got it? Notice how the image is changing color. If you are adding your X2, which is halogen, to a alkane, it will show no color change. It will remain in brown color. But if you add it to alkene or alkyne, it will decolorish. So the reddish orange color of your bromine dissolved in carbon tetrachloride disappears when added to alkynes or alkenes. We can take a specific example here. So your ethene was getting added to reddish orange bromine, and as a result of this, we are getting colorless 1,2-dibromoethane. And further reaction was giving us tetrabromoethane, which is again a colorless compound. Now moving on further. Next we have addition of hydrogen halides represented as HX. So it can be HCl, HBr or HI. So these are molecules made up of hydrogen and a halogen atom. We will see how this react with alkynes, which are hydrocarbon containing at least one triple bond. So 2 molecules of hydrogen halides like your HCl, HBr, HI react with alkynes. This means that for every alkyne molecule, you need 2 molecules of hydrogen halide to complete the reaction. This is different from alkenes, which usually react with just 1 molecule. Final product is your gem dihalide. This means that both halogen atom from the hydrogen halide molecules end up attached to the same carbon atom in the hydrocarbon chain. This is the key feature of this type of addition reaction. So let us look at a specific example using propyne. When propyne reacts with HBr, the first addition forms 2-bromopropene and the second addition gives us 2,2-dibromopropane. Notice how both hydrogen atoms end up on the same carbon. This stepwise process shows how the structure changes with each addition. Now let us discuss the mechanism. In unsymmetrical alkynes, the addition of hydrogen halide follows Markovnikov's rule. This rule states that the hydrogen atom attaches to the carbon with more hydrogen atoms already present, while the halogen atoms attaches to the carbon with fewer hydrogens. This helps us to predict the major product of the reaction. Now, as a result of this, the first step of the reaction results in the formation of vinylic carbocation. Got it? So this is a positively charged intermediate where the positive charge is on a carbon atom that is a part of double bond as well as the secondary carbon. Understanding the intermediate helps us to explain why the reaction proceeds the way it does. Here is a diagram showing the step-by-step mechanism of the reaction. The image depicts the hydrohalogenation of propyne with HBr, a reaction following Markovnikov's rule. In the first step, propyne reacts with HBr where the hydrogen adds to the terminal carbon and bromine adds to the more substituted carbon forming 2-bromopropene. So this occurs because the more substituted carbocation intermediate is more stable. In the second step, the 2-bromopropene further reacts with HBr again following the Markovnikov's rule. The hydrogen adds to the carbon with the existing hydrogen and the second bromide adds to the more substituted carbon, resulting in the formation of 2,2-dibromopropane. Now let us learn more about some other reaction. So we have now addition of water. So this is an important reaction of alkyne where a hydrocarbon having a triple bond reacts with water. So it is called as hydration as well. Now water is not added directly. This means that simply mixing water and alkyne at room temperature won't cause any reaction. So this triple bond in alkyne is quite stable with respect to water. So we need some special condition to make the reaction happen. What is that special condition? It is the presence of a catalyst like mercury ions represented as Hg2+ and an acid such as dilute sulfuric acid H2SO4. When we heat all of this at 333 Kelvin, then water can be added to the alkyne. So we are needing a catalyst along with it. This process leads to the formation of carbonyl compound, which are molecules containing a carbon-oxygen double bond. The catalyst and acid helps us to break the triple bond and allows water to add across it. Now, let us look at specific examples with ethyne. When ethyne reacts with water in the presence of Hg2+ and H+ at 333 Kelvin, it forms an unstable enol intermediate. This enol then quickly changes or tautomerizes into a more stable compound called ethanol, which is an aldehyde. Notice how the triple bond is broken and a new carbon-oxygen double bond is formed. Then we can also talk about propyne, another alkyne. When propyne reacts with water under the same condition, it also forms an enol intermediate. Now this enol then tautomerizes to form propanol, which is a ketone. Again, the key change here is the addition of water and the transformation of triple bond into a carbonyl compound. So what we can say to summarize, the enol intermediate formed in this reaction is unstable because it has an OH group attached to a doubly bonded carbon. This intermediate quickly rearranges to form a stable keto form, which is either an aldehyde or a ketone depending on the starting alkyne. This process is called as tautomerization, and it is a common way that your molecule become more stable after a reaction like hydration for alkynes. Now moving on further. Next we have polymerization reaction. In polymerization, small molecules which we call monomers join together to form larger molecules known as polymer. Process, if I try to explain it further, a monomer is small, simple molecule that can join with other like itself. When many monomers link together, they form a polymer, which is a large chain-like molecule. For example, the plastic in water bottles is made by polymerizing small molecule into long chains. Let us focus on a specific type of polymerization named as linear polymerization. In this process, the monomers join together in a straight line, forming a long chain. We will use ethyne, also known as acetylene, as our example to see how this works under controlled conditions like specific temperature, catalyst and pressure. During linear polymerization of ethyne, the pi bond in the ethyne molecules opens up. This allows the molecule to connect end to end, forming a conjugated polymer. The resulting polymer is called polyacetylene or polyethylene, which has unique electrical properties and is used for some advanced material. Now, what is the reason behind this property? So basically, this is due to the conjugated polymer of this polyacetylene or polyethyl. So this is the overall reaction. Notice how ethyne is reacting in the presence of catalyst to form polyethylene, and we are getting a conjugated system, double bond, single bond, double bond, single bond, which are represented by 1, 2, 1, 2. Now moving on further, we have cyclic polymerization. In this process, small molecules join together to form a ring-shaped or a cyclic compound. This is different from linear polymerization, where the molecules form long chains. We will see how this works with ethyne, which is also known as acetylene. So when ethyne is passed through a red hot iron tube at a higher temperature like 873 Kelvin, it undergoes cyclic polymerization. This means that the ethyne molecule react together under this condition to form a ring-shaped compound. Notice that the high temperature and iron tube are both necessary for this reaction to take place. In this reaction, 3 molecules of ethyne combine to form a molecule of benzene. Benzene is a 6-carbon chain with an alternating double bond single bond, making it an aromatic compound. This transformation is a great example of how simple hydrocarbon can be converted into more complex and important molecule. So let us have a look on the chemical equation related to this reaction. So see how ethyne, 3 moles of ethyne is reacting. So basically it is undergoing polymerization under the condition of red hot iron tube at 873 Kelvin to form benzene. Now how this process is going? So basically it is the movement of your pi bond in a cyclic fashion, so that you can get an aromatic compound like benzene, where the double bond and single bond are present in an alternate fashion in a 6-membered ring. Now it is very important because cyclic polymerization is directly converting your ethyne to benzene. Now, so therefore, it acts as a bridge between aliphatic and aromatic chemistry. And we know that benzene is a precursor, an important precursor for creating many aromatic compounds such as dyes, drugs, and plastics. So we have a question now, how you will convert ethanoic acid into benzene. Let us look on to the solution. So first step is decarboxylation. When you heat your sodium salt of carboxylic acid, you know it very well. It reacts with sodamide to form methane. So before that, we are starting with your ethanoic acid and reacting it with sodium hydroxide to form what? To form sodium salt of ethanoic acid. Then it is heated with sodium lime to form your methane. Next is halogenation. Now in this process, your methane is undergoing chlorination to form chloromethane. So this is your second step. After that, we have the Wurtz reaction. In Wurtz reaction, alkyl halides like CH3Cl or treatment with sodium in dry ethereal solution gives us higher alkanes. So basically, they are coupling with each other. 2 moles of CH3Cl are coupling with each other to form ethane, right? Now moving on further. Next, what we have? Next, we have this chlorination process. Here, your ethane is undergoing what? Chlorination. Now, how can we do it? It's very simple. Again, reacting it with the HNu to form your CH3CH2Cl. Our next step is elimination reaction. Here, your chloroethane is treated with, remember we talked about this. We react it with alcoholic KOH to form ethene. After that, what we do? We again do an addition reaction where your ethene can react with bromine to form 1,2-dibromoethane, which is BrCH2. Then they are bonded with CH2Br. Next is preparation of ethyne from vicinal dihalide. So we have seen this. If you want to convert your CH2Br, single bond CH2Br onto your what? Soda onto your ethyne, what you will do? You will first react it with alcoholic KOH and then with NaNH2 to form your ethyne. Lastly, we have this cyclic polymerization in which 3 molecules of ethyne can polymerize under red hot iron tube at 873 Kelvin to form benzene, which is C6H6. So this was all about the theory class and question part. Let us summarize our today's class. So we started with preparation of alkyne. So we started with calcium carbide reacting with water to form C2H2 and calcium hydroxide. Next was from vicinal dihalide. It was of 2 steps. First is of elimination with KOH in the presence of alcohol to form your vicinal bromide from vicinal dihalide. Then the second step is again an elimination, but this time with soda amide. So your vinyl dibromide can undergo elimination to form your ethyne. Then we talked about the physical properties. So physical properties are totally dependent on intermolecular interaction. So let us talk about polarity. Due to the presence of electronegative sp carbon, a weak dipole forms along the carbon chain. Then color and order. So they have again colorless and orderless, similar to your alkanes and alkenes. After that, what about density and solubility? So alkynes are lighter than water and immiscible in water due to their non-polar nature, but they are soluble in organic solvents. After that, we have chemical properties. So first we talked about the acidic character of alkynes, where it can react with sodium or soda amide to form acetylides. So here is the reaction of your further excess sodium. Okay, so it can further react with another mole of sodium to form disodium acetylide. Then what about your propine? So propine can only undergo one time removal of proton due to availability of only one hydrogen at the terminal carbon. Then we talked about addition reaction. So first was addition of your H2, then was of Cl2N of HX. Each of this have gone through two steps. So first, your H2 is adding your ethyne to form ethane in two steps. Then your Br2 is adding to your ethyne to form tetrabromoethane, and your HX is adding on to your ethyne in two steps to form a geminal dihalide. Then we have addition of water. So it cannot be done under simple condition. So we require some catalyst like Hg2 plus in the presence of H plus at higher temperature such as 333 Kelvin to form a enol. Now this enol is not stable, so it will tautomerize to form a keto form, which is ethanol in this phase. Lastly, we have this linear polymerization, where your ethyne is being polymerized under your heat and catalyst condition to give a conjugated system. This conjugated system is very important because it allows your polyene to form electrical conductivity. This was all for today's class. Thank you for joining the session.